Exactly 14 hours ago today, NASA's highly advanced Deep Space Network logged an extraordinary event from the interstellar object known as 3I Atlas that possesses a mere 0.0001% chance of natural occurrence. This massive traveler did not just collide with a piece of space debris, nor did it merely deflect it away. In a move that completely defies the known laws of physics, 3I Atlas actively assimilated a solid asteroid measuring over 300 meters across. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope detected this completely impossible behavior at 4:12 UTC, and the resulting data has absolutely no precedent in the history of modern astrophysics. To picture this extraordinary event, you must imagine a glowing, hypersonic comet tearing through the vacuum of our solar system 240 million kilometers away from Earth. Suddenly, a standard metallic S-type asteroid appears drifting directly in its path. Under normal physical laws, one of two things must happen. Either the two objects completely miss each other, or they collide in a catastrophic kinetic explosion, creating a massive, expanding debris field. That is the physics we have understood for centuries. But when you examine the direct data from 3I Atlas, our understanding of cosmic physics breaks down entirely. The interstellar object approached the drifting asteroid, decelerated by a tiny fraction of a percent, completely enveloped the metallic rock within its glowing coma, and then continued along its original trajectory. There was absolutely no debris field left behind, and not a single sign of fragmentation. The solid asteroid simply vanished into the core of 3I Atlas while the object's mass readings spiked symmetrically. Precision that tight requires real control and structural intention. In all the years spent studying theoretical physics and cosmic phenomena, scientists have never witnessed a comet digest solid matter. This is not a small, negligible detail. The implications of this event could completely rewrite our entire understanding of interstellar visitors. Right now, telescopes all around the world are pivoting to track this impossible anomaly because time is running out to comprehend what exactly we are dealing with. To put this in perspective, the raw numbers are definitive. The probability of an interstellar comet randomly intersecting with a localized asteroid and absorbing it without a kinetic blast is roughly 1 in 4.7 billion. You statistically have a better chance of winning the lottery twice in a row while simultaneously being struck by lightning. Yet, 3 entirely independent sources have validated this event. NASA's Near-Earth Object Observations Program confirmed the missing asteroid. The European Space Agency's Gaia spacecraft independently verified the sudden mass increase in 3I Atlas, and the Atacama Large Millimeter Array cross-referenced the chemical absorption. When you look at this from an astrophysical standpoint, the physics is deeply intriguing because comets are supposed to be fragile, icy bodies. They naturally shed mass as they travel. They do not hunt for it. They certainly do not consume 33 billion tons of solid nickel and iron without shattering into a million pieces. The conventional explanation has always been that comets are just dirty snowballs drifting through the dark. But what if our fundamental model is completely incomplete? What if this object is something else entirely? Everyone assumes we are just watching a dead, ancient rock. But the data suggests otherwise, forcing us to realize exactly what this unprecedented event means for the future of our solar system. To truly grasp the magnitude of what happened 14 hours ago, we must first look closely at the origin of this cosmic anomaly. What exactly is 3I Atlas? The object was initially discovered on November 12, 2025, by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System based in Hawaii. At first glance, it appeared to be a standard interstellar interloper, the third of its kind ever recorded after the discoveries of Oumuamua and Borisov. It possessed a highly hyperbolic trajectory, meaning it originated from deep space outside our solar system and was simply passing through our neighborhood on its way back into the void. Almost immediately, however, astronomical instruments picked up one key differentiator. Unlike normal comets that emit large plumes of water, vapor, and dust as they heat up near the sun, 3I Atlas remained remarkably cold. It exhibited zero of the thermal emissions that are standard for an object at its proximity to our star. It was a dark, silent traveler moving through the void. Until recently, the conventional explanation was that dormant comets simply lack volatile ice on their surfaces. But the incoming data makes no sense under classical thermodynamics. The primary instrument tracking this object was NASA's near-infrared camera aboard the James Webb Space Telescope. It was capturing routine spectrographic data when the target asteroid, designated 2024 XR7, appeared in the path of 3I Atlas at T-30 hours before the main event. Initial trajectory models predicted a near miss of about 400,000 kilometers, which is a safe, vast distance in cosmic terms. But then, NASA's instruments detected an impossible shift. The comet altered its course by exactly 0.08 degrees. The numbers do not lie. A shift like this requires non-gravitational acceleration, meaning a massive energy output occurred without any visible thrusters or outgassing. This was not an isolated technological glitch. While NASA's James Webb detected this trajectory change, the European Space Agency's Gaia spacecraft independently verified the sudden shift in velocity, and the Hubble Space Telescope's Wide Field Camera 3 cross-referenced the orbital mechanics with the exact same result. 3 independent sources using entirely different methodologies arrived at the identical conclusion. The object actively steered itself. Let us put this in perspective. A 33 billion-ton block of ice does not possess the capacity to suddenly change its orbital mechanics to intercept a target. That completely defies our scientific models. The physics breaks down entirely when you introduce deliberate intention to a seemingly inanimate mass of space rock. But that was only the very first anomaly in a sequence. What comes next is even more shocking. Once the interception course was set, the serial anomalies began to cascade rapidly. At T-12 hours, the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile registered a second major anomaly, which was a distinct electromagnetic frequency radiating directly from the core of 3I Atlas. It was a rhythmic pulse peaking every 23 seconds, perfectly synchronized with the rotation rate of the asteroid it was approaching. It behaved like a mechanical predator matching the speed of its prey. We have observed millions of celestial bodies across 4 million cumulative years of cometary observation, but never before have we recorded a frequency synchronization like this. By T-4 hours, a third distinct anomaly emerged from the object. The surface temperature of 3I Atlas, which had been resting near absolute zero, suddenly spiked in a highly localized region at its forward apex. It reached exactly 1,200 degrees Celsius in a concentrated, circular zone. Consider the massive implications of this change. You have a frozen interstellar object that suddenly heats up a specific patch of its surface to the exact melting point of silicate rock, just hours before encountering a silicate-rich asteroid. This should simply not be possible under any natural framework. First, the object changed its trajectory. Then it matched the asteroid's rotational frequency, and now it was actively preparing a precise thermal envelope. Each action was increasingly more impossible than the last. NASA confirmed this sudden thermal spike at exactly 1:14 UTC. The numbers are entirely unambiguous. Over 99% of known comets behave completely differently, heating uniformly as they approach the sun rather than selectively when approaching a specific rock. It gets even stranger as the timeline progresses. At T-1 hour, the two objects were separated by less than 50,000 kilometers. From our vantage point on Earth, this appears as 2 faint pixels slowly merging on a screen. But dynamically, it represents a collision of cosmic titans. The target asteroid began to experience a strange, localized gravitational drag. The European Space Agency's data matches this independently, showing that the asteroid was being pulled not just by the natural mass of 3I Atlas, but by an artificial gravitational gradient that exceeded the comet's calculated mass by a factor of 12. It was the cosmic equivalent of dropping a powerful magnet near a pile of iron filings. Then, at exactly 4:12 UTC, the actual digestion occurred. The superheated apex of 3I Atlas made physical contact with the asteroid, but there was no kinetic shockwave. Spectroscopy showed the metallic signatures of the asteroid instantly dissolving into the coma of the comet. The silicate rock, the nickel, and the iron were seamlessly absorbed into the traveler. 33 billion tons of solid matter vanished, and the mass of 3I Atlas increased by precisely the mass of the asteroid, meaning absolutely nothing was lost to surrounding space. The precision of this process is remarkable. In simpler terms, the comet opened up and swallowed the asteroid whole without losing a single ounce of matter to the vacuum of space. And that is just the beginning of this unfolding mystery. We are not simply witnessing a random anomaly. We are watching an impossible mechanical process occurring deep within the interstellar void. Three completely separate astronomical organizations fully agree on this terrifying, undeniable new reality. What fascinates scientists about this data is the sheer thermodynamic impossibility of what followed the absorption. In classical physics, when you add 33 billion tons of kinetic energy and solid matter to an existing body, you must generate massive amounts of residual heat. It is just like a bullet hitting a steel plate, where the kinetic energy converts instantly to heat. But when we examine 3I Atlas, that fundamental law of thermodynamics is missing. By 5:30 UTC on April 19, 2026, the intense thermal envelope on the comet's apex dissipated entirely. The object dropped back to its state near absolute zero within a mere 14 minutes. This rapid cooling process requires an internal thermal sink, meaning a specialized mechanism to instantly process and store that immense energy. A natural comet simply cannot do this. It would melt or fracture under the stress. Instead, 3I Atlas stabilized perfectly. To truly grasp the absurdity of this, we must look at the structural integrity of cometary ice. The physics here breaks down spectacularly. In all our years studying astrophysical phenomena, the tensile strength of an ice rock matrix has never been observed, surviving an impact of this magnitude. A 33 billion ton object moving at relative cosmic velocities carries kinetic energy equivalent to thousands of thermonuclear warheads. If you detonate that much energy inside a fragile comet, the comet ceases to exist, becoming an expanding cloud of vapor and silicate shrapnel. Yet, the instruments showed the exact opposite. The object absorbed the energy seamlessly, implying that the outer shell of 3I Atlas is not merely ice. It appears to be a highly advanced metamaterial capable of instantaneous kinetic dissipation. This is technology that should not exist. When you examine the data, the optical cross-section remained perfectly intact, showing zero spallation and zero fragmentation. NASA confirmed this stability at 5:45 UTC, and the European Space Agency's data matches the conclusion independently. Consider the implications of a metamaterial shell hiding beneath a thin veneer of interstellar frost. The urgent question we need to ask is who or what designed a shell capable of swallowing an asteroid whole? The scientific community has long assumed that comets are just primordial leftovers from the formation of solar systems. But what if our model is entirely backwards? What if some of these objects are engineered vessels using cometary ice merely as an ablative shield for deep space travel? Exactly at 6:45 UTC, something changed again. NASA's Deep Space Network antenna, DSS-43 in Australia, detected a new, impossible resonance emanating directly from the core of 3I Atlas. This was not in our astrophysical models, nor was it predicted by any terrestrial supercomputer. This changes everything we know about the object. The rhythmic electromagnetic pulse we recorded earlier returned, but it was no longer matching the asteroid's rotation. Instead, the pulse shifted to a distinct 8.4 gigahertz frequency. That happens to be a frequency commonly used by human deep space satellites. Picture this scenario clearly. An interstellar object swallows a massive rock, processes its mass without generating heat, and then begins broadcasting on a microwave band used by our own planetary defense networks. The bandwidth was narrow, highly structured, and entirely non-random. Let us quantify this situation mathematically. The probability of an interstellar comet possessing a localized thermal anomaly is perhaps 0.05%. The probability of a comet intercepting an asteroid with non-gravitational acceleration is roughly 0.00001%. The probability of it absorbing 33 billion tons of rock without a debris field is zero under natural laws. All of these occurring in the same object, followed by an immediate 8.4 gigahertz transmission, multiplies those odds into 1 in several trillion. That is like flipping a coin and having it land on its edge 10,000 times consecutively while a hurricane blows through the room. Across over 12,000 cataloged objects in our databases, we have never seen this combination of localized thermodynamics, targeted trajectory alteration, and specific radio frequency generation. Before we speculate, we must examine the evidence objectively. But the evidence points to one terrifying conclusion. We are observing a deliberate mechanical process. Consider the implications of a directed mechanism operating 240 million kilometers from Earth. Even the most skeptical voices in the astronomical community are now silent. Even Avi Loeb at Harvard, who famously theorized that Oumuamua was artificial, stated that this new data completely shatters our previous boundaries of interstellar study. When someone at that level unequivocally states that natural explanations have been exhausted, and when the Jet Propulsion Laboratory initiates emergency data sharing protocols, we need to pay very close attention. NASA essentially locked down the raw spectroscopic feeds from the James Webb Space Telescope. The European Space Agency's official position was released as a joint preliminary assessment, stating only that 3 independent sources validated the impossible. Yet, the silence from the top tier of astronomical institutions is deafening. The consensus is shifting rapidly behind closed doors because they know this defies our models. From a theoretical perspective, you have to ask where the asteroid went. We know the mass of 3I Atlas increased, but mass does not just sit there idle. It must be utilized. If you could zoom out to a cosmic scale, you would see this comet acting less like a celestial wanderer and more like a massive automated harvester. It stopped, it fed, it stabilized, and it broadcasted. The rules of physics are completely useless here. We are facing a monumental paradigm shift, but what the data shows next completely alters the stakes of this event. This is the information that prompted classified briefings at the highest levels of space administration. Imagine looking at a spectrometer display and watching the fundamental chemical signature of an object rewrite itself in real time. New data arrived showing impossible readings, but they were confirmed 3 separate times. The real mystery starts now. Everything documented by 6:45 UTC today was just a prelude to an even deeper transformation. On April 19, 2026, at exactly 8:22 UTC, the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile detected something else entirely, something that was absolutely not in any prior data stream and was not supposed to exist in the natural universe. Spectroscopy from the coma of the interstellar object suddenly shifted. The 33 billion tons of silicate, nickel, and iron from the digested asteroid did not just sit inside the object. They were actively extruded to the surface. Spectroscopy shows definitive metallic signatures forming complex geometric lattice works across the exterior, creating pure elements that should not exist in this highly structured, temperature-controlled regime. The asteroid was not just consumed, it was harvested for raw materials. The object is effectively armoring itself, using the very asteroid it devoured to intricately reinforce its outer shell. We are no longer observing a passive cosmic event. We are witnessing an active, highly controlled reconstruction process happening in real time. If this is somehow a bizarre, helical natural chemical reaction, then our entire foundational understanding of metallurgical bonding in a vacuum is completely wrong. If this is a localized geological anomaly, then comets possess internal pressure mechanisms we never dreamed of. But here is what keeps astrophysicists awake at night. If this is an autonomous, self-replicating artificial architecture, then this object is not a comet at all. It is an interstellar drone repairing or upgrading itself on its journey through our solar system. Within 3 hours of this terrifying revelation, NASA initiated a Level 1 planetary defense coordination meeting with the European Space Agency and the Department of Defense. In 40 years of modern astrophysics, that has happened rarely, if ever, for an object theoretically just passing by. That alone tells you the immense magnitude of the anomaly we are dealing with right now. The precise data completely shatters the illusion of random cosmic behavior. Let us establish what we know with absolute certainty. First, the object intentionally altered its trajectory to intercept an asteroid. Second, it assimilated 33 billion tons of matter with zero fragmentation, defying a 1 in 4.7 billion probability. Third, NASA and ESA confirmed this anomaly and initiated emergency protocols. Finally, the object is actively using the digested metals to construct a geometric lattice across its surface. These are not loose theories. These are documented observations. One question remains unanswered, a question that official briefings carefully avoid. What intelligence is controlling the non-gravitational acceleration? Because the answer determines everything. If this is natural, it rewrites thermodynamics. If this is artificial, we are not alone. And if this object is a self-replicating drone harvesting our solar system, then humanity faces an existential threat. There is no middle ground, and the clock is running. Right now, every major observatory telescope on Earth is collecting data. The deep space network is locked, and the quantum detectors are completely live. The mysterious signal is ongoing, Earth is listening, and we are about to find out the truth. If you want to stay updated as this cosmic mystery unfolds and get the latest deep space data analyzed in real time, make sure to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts on what this object might be in the comments below.